So guys, this is a brand new species of sea slug, a bioluminescence, and what's really cool is based on genetic sequencing, it represents the third independent evolutionary origin of this animal being bioluminescent. Which I think is really, really cool, that there is the effect that we can actually nail down where in evolutionary time these animals evolved bioluminescence, and this is the third independent instance of it. The depth at the animals which was found was about 1,000 to 4,000 meters in depth below the surface. And this, again, as the party people were saying, was the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Center, or Research Institute. So it's the MBARI, which is where it was found. Let's check out this animal swimming. It is a slug, Professor Ploticus. It is a bioluminescent slug, and again, what I think is really cool is the genetics behind it demonstrate that it is the third instance of the evolution of bioluminescence within slugs. Because to have that level of sequencing means you need a pretty high resolution of being able to tell the animals apart and being able to list out like when in evolutionary time they've evolved. And so it's really cool. It's like they have enough genetic information to be like, yes, this is in fact a new breakpoint in evolutionary time of when they actually start having these bioluminescence. And it turns out, Tommy, the reason they light up is to protect themselves from predators. So it's like, how do you keep predators away? You light up. And that bioluminescence is like, oh, and they get a little bit scared and then they swim away. Tommy, what's I think kind of cool is they've probably found these animals before. They've been researching this area for about, I believe, like 20 years now, except only now do they have cameras that can film bioluminescence in color and in high res. Like, and that's something, Tommy, that we don't always consider, right? Of the technological limitations, especially like the imaging side of things, right? Well, so Glued, if you are that deep that you're always in the dark, you're not used to light, right? So Sparky, that's why it's also not to draw on food in this case, because if you're so deep where there's usually not light, in this instance, it's used to like flash and scare animals away. Now, Sparky, it doesn't mean that there's not the possibility for some element of its diet. However, what they ended up seeing, Sparky, and this is, we'll link back to the paper in a second. So, Sparky, the catch here is after they start glowing, the researchers found that they actually detached a finger-like projection from the tail. And so that's almost like with lizards that lose their tails. So that, again, the predator will go after the tail versus the animal. And so that's why it's the suspicion that it's most likely chasing away or trying to get rid of some level of predator. And that was one issue in finding 20 years ago, but you don't have the right camera equipment. You don't know about if you can bring them up or not. And if you do bring them up, they disintegrate because they have a certain level of pressure that keeps them in their stable form. Turgis mentioned that is the mouth we're looking at right here, that big opening, and the backside is the tail. There you go. So Sparky, here's the flash look to it. Again, this is like when it's being threatened, it'll have this light up pattern, but they do have evidence where part of those little tentacles get launched off. So what's new about the new species, Lodoc? A couple of things. The sequencing data is new. It swims in a region of the water where it's not at the base of the ocean, it's not at the top of the ocean, it's like in this intermediate level, about a depth of 1 to 4,000 meters in depth, and there had not been anything discovered at that zone before. Also, the animal bioluminesces, and it glows in the dark as a response to predator threat. The glowing, so the animal glows when a predator comes near, and then it releases a bit of its tail. And so the predator goes after that tail bit that's glowing, and the slug can swim away. So that it's like an attractant to the predator, like, hey, go look at this thing, and then it swims on off. Again, this is kind of neat because on the paper they have the highlights laid out. Previously undescribed genus and species, has unique morphology not related to any known family, so it's structurally very different. Based on a phylogenetic tree or tree of life, it has a distinct branch to the rest of it. Let's see the rest of the figures here. They did the DNA sequencing too. So DNA sequencing, flash frozen specimens. They did the whole Sanger sequencing, the whole kebab, which I thought was a nice little touch to it. These are some of the breakdowns they've got of the new species. The organ colors. So the red is the stomach. The orange here is the digestive gland, and then this white patch right here is the brain. Here's the phylogenetic breakdown of where these found. That's pretty much it for the paper. It's pretty cut and dry. New species, kind of new depths. They did some sequencing to identify that they are quite different from existing nudibranches, and they also have identified that it fluoresces primarily, we think, as a means to get away from a predator and not to attract food. And that's your new species of the week.